Okay, here's 7.2. These are your formulas. We're only looking at sine and cosine. Don't worry about the tangent formula. Okay, we don't do that one. Just sine here, just sine and cosine. Okay, so I want you to pay attention what happens if I have sine of two different angles. We're going to call those S and T. So I've got the sine of S plus T. I can do the sine of S times the cosine of T plus the cosine of S times the sine of T. And once again, you're not going to be required to memorize these, but this would be the formula you would use. And here's the subtraction formula for sine. Okay, so notice it's a sine cosine minus a cosine sine. Now, the cosine formulas are a little different. On this one, when you're adding here, you're adding here. When you're subtracting here, you're subtracting here. But look at how cosine changes. With the cosine, I've got the cosine of both angles. When I'm adding, I subtract the product of the sines. And when I'm subtracting, I have the cosine of both angles, and I'm adding the product of the sines of both angles. So that's one of the reasons we're not going to worry about memorizing these four formulas. Just make sure that you can use them appropriately. Okay, so for one of your questions on your WebAssign, it says if I was doing this, what formula I would use? Well, that's the cosine addition formula because you're adding those. And this is what you're doing. That's the name of the formula, not what the formula says to do. Okay, so just make sure that you understand that. And we're not proving down below this. It says proving the formulas. We're not proving those formulas. We're just going to use those formulas. Okay, so let's see how we could use those. Okay, we'll look right here at example 1 on page 582. And this is important when it says find exact value. Now, of course, the test is going to be a little different because, I can't keep you from using a calculator. So just be aware, when it says exact value, they're wanting you to do 75 degrees. It's really an easy value to see that that's 45 plus 30. And those are two of the angles that we can get their values really easy. We should have those memorized at this point. Okay. Or if we had cosine pi over 12, that will be a pi over 4 minus a pi over 6 when you do your least common denominator. So let's look at the cosine of 75 because that's more like one I would put on your test. Okay, so if I had cosine of 75, that's the cosine of a 45 plus a 30. So doing our formula, that's going to be cosine of 45 times cosine of 30 minus sine of 45 times sine of 30. Then I just plug those values in. The cosine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. The cosine of 30 is square root of 3 over 2. The sine of 45 is square root of 2 over 2. And the sine of 30 is 1/2. I'm going to multiply these together. Okay, and I get the square root of 6 over 4. This is square root of 2 over 4. And I'm done. Okay, that's my answer. Okay, I could put it in the calculator and get a decimal. And if you did, just push the buttons and do cosine of 75. The decimal you got would be if you simplified this to a decimal. Okay.